lot of stuff to share with you today, and I've refined down what I've learned from those different genres into the core stuff you might need to know to help those kids learn the basics of beautiful singing and pitch matching and steady beat, the core of the curriculum. Today is going to mostly focus on pitch matching. That is really the focus today, is making sure every kid can sing beautifully, in tune, and match pitch. Now, we have around, let's say, 80–90% of the kids that will learn in a general music setting, in a choir setting. They'll pick it up if your instruction is anywhere near adequate. They'll catch on their own. And then you got that smaller percentage of kids, maybe 8–9–10%, who struggle a little bit, and maybe with a little bit of intervention in the classroom, maybe they stay in for recess a little bit, maybe you help them a little bit one-on-one, they can get there. And then you got those trouble cases. You're gonna have some strategies today to work with those really edge case kids who, after weeks, years, maybe get to 8th grade, they've had general music and choir, they're still struggling to match pitch. I've got some stuff that might help you with those kids in particular, because I know those ones are our biggest challenges often. Like I said, we got a wide range in the room here of backgrounds and experience, so I hope to give you some relevant stuff for the people who have a really strong choir background and years of that, and for the people for whom this is your first year teaching singing for your entire life and you've never really done it much yourself. Hopefully there's something there for everyone. So let's dive on in. If you go ahead and grab that handout I gave you, Raise Every Voice. The front just has a couple links for everything that you might want from here. I do video all my sessions. All my handouts are available digitally online. Any warm-ups, any vocal exercises that I give you are also recorded either on video or audio. You can find all that stuff on my website. So you won't have to look at this a lot today. You can kind of ignore the paper and then go back to that as a reference later. Anything you think you might have missed, I move very, very fast. I talk very, very fast. I go on lots of tangents. If you feel like you're missing something, don't worry. It's all recorded. It's all on the website. You can still find it later. You don't need to freak out if you feel like something's zipping right past you. If you flip to that second page, that's where we're going to start out today. You can set that down for right now. I'll reference that graphic in just a minute. But to start, I just want to talk a little bit of philosophy and why we're talking about this particular topic. There's a lot of things you can teach in music class. Music is relatively unique in subjects in that you have such a wide certification. Many of you are not highly qualified, certified music educators, whatever that means, but those who go through and get their music ed degree, you are certified to teach K through 12, band, orchestra, jazz, marching band, choir, musical theater, music appreciation, piano, guitar. Doesn't matter if you've never picked up a guitar in your life, you're qualified to teach it. It's there on your resume. Come on in, my friend. It's lovely to have you. Always happy to have more. Grab those 3 right there, and then you got a sign-in sheet over there, along with a name tag, and we'll give you a chair in just a second. Thank you so much. Come on in. So you have such a wide range of what can happen. And then when you look at the general music classroom, it's even worse, because in choir, in band, in jazz band, in orchestra, you at least have some structure around what you're supposed to be teaching. In general music, you could literally just spend the entire year teaching the instrument families. You could spend the entire year teaching Tchaikovsky and nothing else. Just make it a seminar on Tchaikovsky. Or you could spend the whole year singing and dancing and moving, or you could spend the whole year getting out Orff instruments and improvising and composing. Some classrooms have a lot of that, some classrooms have all those things, some classrooms have none of those things. I had a friend who had replaced a teacher who had been in a district for 20 years, who the entire music class was 35 minutes once a day, K through 8, I believe, and every day was put on a pop CD and free dance to the music. This week is Michael Jackson. Next week is the Beatles. Dance, 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 35 minutes. Good music class, kids. See you later. That was their music class, K through 8. Small town, rural community, wasn't a lot of accountability, nobody in the district who knew anything about music. They saw kids smiling and laughing and having fun and music getting played. They were happy. That's all they needed. The parents asked, how was music class? It was really fun today. We danced. We heard a cool song. Cool. That's all they need to know. We are the subject matter experts. We are the ones who decide what they're going to leave our classroom with. And they could leave our classroom with a lot of things. What I try to drill into teachers' heads is that the goal is to make sure that it's a music class, and that it's not about music class, it's not musicians class, it's not music history class, it's not music theory class, it's music class. And if music isn't happening, it's not music class. So while Tchaikovsky's birthday and Mozart's birthplace and the instrument families and the note names on the staff, while all of those things are wonderful and valuable and they matter and they should show up into your curriculum, if your kids aren't matching pitch and keeping a steady beat, you're not teaching music. You're teaching about music, which is fine, that's wonderful, but it's not music class. Music class is music. And if your kids can't match pitch, if they can't keep a steady beat, if they can't perform music together, they're not musicians. They might be academics, they might know a lot about music. I'm sure you may have run into these people in your career, the professors who can tell you every single date and every single ephemera about the compositions, but you ask them to perform it and it doesn't sound that good. Those are not musicians. Those are wonderful, amazing experts and academics. They're wonderful, I'm glad they exist, but it's not music. Music is making beautiful sounds. So, I don't blame music teachers for this. I think that the education training programs often fail to give you the tools you need to be able to instruct those core skills. You get a lot more about appreciation, you get a lot more about theory, a lot more about history. You don't get, how do I help a kid who can't match pitch? What do I do when the kid just can't sing? How do I get their mouth to open and make a sound come out? That's hard. That's what today is about. Again, I don't blame the teachers, but if you had your school and we said, okay, 10% of your graduates after 8th grade who stay in the district the whole time, they're not a transient in and out population, K through 8 here, can't add when they graduate 8th grade. Probably something wrong with the math curriculum. Probably something that's supposed to be happening in that math class that isn't happening. And you say, well, it's 5th grade and multiplication happens in 5th grade, so I have to teach multiplication. Okay, but they can't add. And if they can't add, what do you do in teaching multiplication? What do you do in teaching Tchaikovsky's birthday and the instrument families and how to read key signatures when they can't sing in tune? Singing in tune and keeping a steady beat are core essential skills to everything you do in music. You can't appreciate the music unless you can engage with it in some way. The other thing I would ask is that you think about what from your classroom can carry on into the adulthood for your students. What can they use when they're out of your school? Because most of your students are not going to sing in choirs and play in bands once they're out of high school. You're going to lose over half of them by the time they get to college, and then you're going to lose almost all of them by the time they get out of college. How many 35-year-olds that you know sing in a choir or play in a band? Is it more than 5%? Probably not. How many in here perform in an ensemble outside of school? Choir, band? Great. About half the room. That's awesome. That's a room full of music teachers, and it's half the room. It's very, very rare. So, teaching them how to read music, wonderful, amazing, fantastic. Teach them literacy, that's great. Teaching them appreciation for composition, that's great. But what are they going to take out of your classroom that they can use in their life? The music appreciation, the listening skills, those are clearly key because music is everywhere in our lives. You know, from the elevator to the car to the mall to everywhere you go, there's going to be some music. So if you can teach them to listen more effectively and listen more critically, that's wonderful. It's going to help them. For me, my goal for my students, when I'm teaching in general or in choir, is that they feel comfortable singing lullabies to their grandkids. Not their kids, because that's pretty easy, 30, 40, like they're only like 10 or 15 years out of school, so they might have held that on you. But when you're 80, if you still have a couple songs that are stuck in the back of their head that you feel comfortable opening and singing up to your young grandchild, that's amazing. And that's something that can help keep music tied through the generations, and that is so important for us, because there's nothing that is more strongly correlated with later musical achievement and musical aptitude than the age at which a child is able to replicate a melody that they hear. When mom sings something to baby and baby sings it back, the age that that happens is the strongest correlation for how strong that child will be as a musician when they grow up. If you're not singing to that child, you're not getting any of that. I was talking earlier with one of you about the challenges you face in the classroom. I've taught math too, and so you might get some kids who are struggling on some concepts, some kids who are more bright, but I've never had a classroom of math students where some couldn't add and some were doing differential calculus. They would not put those kids in the same room. You will have choirs where some kids can barely match pitch and some kids have had 5 or 6 years of voice lessons. I had choirs where I had kids who could not match pitch after 2 years of choir with me, and other kids who were on Kids Bop CDs and had signed recording contracts. That range of skill is difficult to teach well and give something valuable to everyone in the room. I'm facing that challenge right now. I have people who've had years and years of vocal training and choir experience, and people who are starting their music teaching for the first time tomorrow. I also have wonderful pitches playing as I try to talk. Wonderful. So, it's a difficult challenge. It's really, really hard, but it's important. It really matters that you focus on those core essential things and think, what can my students take from this that they can use for the rest of their lives? Yes, the national standards matter. Yes, the state standards matter. Yes, the curriculum standards for your district matter. All that stuff matters. Yes, the performances matter. Yes, the open houses, all of that stuff matters. But what are they going to hold on if they left? they left your classroom today and they never had another day of music for the rest of their lives, would they feel comfortable making music in their lives? If not, you're not teaching music, you're teaching about music. Again, which is valuable, but it's not music. Music is making music. So we're going to talk about making music and how to get the kids to make that music. Right on that first page on your handout there, you've got a nice little pyramid. I stole this from Edwin Gordon, who's one of the top music education researchers and philosophers in the country. I got to see him speak in Massachusetts before he passed tragically a few years ago. He was one of the key figures in the field and did a lot of the actual peer-reviewed research work in music education. There's not a lot of that, because there's not a lot of funding for it. Most of the people who really like music and like to sing are in the classroom, teaching kids how to sing and how to have music. They're not in their PhD seminars writing thesis papers and doing research papers. So he has some really, really valuable material. I would encourage you to check out Edwin Gordon and see if you can get something valuable from his material. There's a large, large breadth there, and I haven't done the official certified Gordon training, so I'm just stealing a small concept to plug in your head, and I apologize to the spirit of Edwin Gordon if I bastardize his material, but I found my explanation of it very helpful to many teachers and students. So Gordon found that the way children learn music, and adults, if they haven't learned music yet, parallels the way we learn language. So you have these sequential vocabularies that build up on top of each other. You have the words that you've heard, you have the words that you can speak and repeat, which is a smaller subset of all the words that you've heard in your life. You have the words that you can think and move around and create new sentences and improvise with, which is a smaller subset of all the words that you can speak, which is a smaller subset of all the words you've ever heard. You have the words that you can read, which is a smaller subset of all the words you can think. Your kids can definitely think words that they can't read off a page. Reading is a smaller subset of words you can think. Thinking is a smaller subset of words you can speak. Speaking, smaller of words you can hear. And at the top, you have words you can write. If you can't read a word, you probably can't write it. If you can't think a word, you probably can't read it. If you can't speak a word, you probably can't think it. If you can't hear a word, you probably can't speak it. So the bigger that base of the pyramid is, the higher that pyramid can go, and the bigger each level can be. And we spend very little time on that base of the pyramid. We didn't have to for many generations. It was okay. 20, 30 years ago, music teachers didn't have to spend that much time building the listening vocabulary because most kids got sung to at home, or there was music in the home, or they had, those wonderful things, Disney movies. They had I would have so many kids that come in, Lion King, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, like they got a full body repertoire by the time they come into kindergarten. They've memorized at least 20, 30, 40 songs, right? We're not seeing a lot of that today. You have the kids who are musical who come in with a lot of that stuff, but there's a lot of kids who have very little exposure at home. It's our job to supplement that, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be your job to have to supplement that. It shouldn't be your job to be parenting these children. It shouldn't be your job to teach them the basics of humanity. They should already know how to be polite humans and sit still and raise their hand and talk to a teacher by the time they get to you. Their parents should be helping them with that, but they're not. Many of them aren't. And it's not because they're bad parents. A lot of them are just stressed out. They're in a difficult situation economically. You have two parents who are working full-time with extra hours trying to make things work. It's not a blame game. It's what we have to deal with. And we can sit around and whine about it, we can sit around and complain about it, or we can say, this is the world I live in, and this is the world we teach in, and I want to be a music teacher, so I have to adapt to the world I'm in front of. We used to have the hymn tunes everybody would know, that went away. We used to have the flag songs everybody would know, the national anthem. A lot of that doesn't get taught in the classrooms anymore, so a lot of kids don't know those. We used to have Disney for a while, and then you had that 10, 15-year gap where Disney stopped doing musicals, and all of a sudden kids don't know that stuff anymore. I'm getting 8, 9, 10-year-olds who never heard Lion King, never heard Beauty and the Beast, never heard Little Mermaid. So we don't have these common songs for everyone anymore. Everyone has their headphones in and their own little experience of their own miniature music world, which is wonderful. That's great that you get your own special, beautiful, wonderful songs that you love, that are the soundtrack to your life. But it's hard to relate to others when that's all you have. If we were trying to teach language and everyone had their own little sets of words and we didn't use common words across each other, cool, you can talk to your parents, but if you don't have common language across each other, it's very hard to communicate, and it's very hard to teach a class if you don't have that solid foundation. So we need to, at those youngest levels, build that foundation out. We need to help them hear better before we make them sing better, and before we make them play better. So, a lot of listening stuff. That's not what today is about. You can go to other sessions, you can check out stuff online. There's tons of full curriculums on listening materials, on interactive listening worksheets, on visuals and PowerPoints and YouTube videos. There's a lot of great resources out there for listening. I'm happy to recommend those to you guys. What I'm trying to drill in is that you need to hear beautiful singing, you need to hear in-tune singing, you need to hear simple patterns before you can branch out and start getting the ability to replicate those patterns. So we're going to do a little bit of interactive stuff today. So you can set those down on the ground. You will be singing. I apologize if that makes you feel uncomfortable, but your kids have to sing, your kids have to play instruments, and they're a lot younger than you and have a lot less experience than you, so you gotta suck it up. So we're gonna make some sounds today. I'm gonna warm your voices up first. I know you may not have been using them that much for singing today, so let's go ahead and stand up. You can steal any and all of this, including the puns and jokes for your students. They tend to love them, so stretch up high, touch the sky, don't touch this guy, and stretch down low, touch your toes. Mom told me if God wanted us to touch our toes, he would have put them on our knees. Try to get that lower back loose. Relax that head, shake the neck a little bit. Make sure you're not carrying any tension in the neck. As you roll up, start from the small of your back and work your way up the vertebrae. Chin stays to the chest, arms and shoulders relax, and when you get up to the top, scrunch those shoulders up to your ears and back, and do as big a roll as you can. Back shoulder rolls are great. I love back-facing shoulder rolls. They leave you in this nice open Superman posture. Forward shoulder rolls, if you like them, go ahead and do them. I don't like them because they end up like Grandma. And I love Grandma, but she doesn't sing very well. I don't know if Superman sings well, but he's pretty much good at everything, so I assume he sings well, so stand like Superman. So roll those shoulders back. If you use shoulder rolls in the classroom, please use a backward after you do the forward, just so you can make sure they're getting into that nice, tall, aligned posture. Beautiful. We're gonna stretch up one more time. As you do that, feel your rib cage nice and tall and proud as your arms are going up. When your arms come down, try to keep that rib cage nice and tall and elevated. Don't let it collapse. Arms come down nice and slow. Try not to bump your neighbor unless they asked you to. And as those arms come down, nice tall proud chest. Nice wide open ribs. Very, very good. Excellent job. We're gonna line up the body from bottom to top, so we want those feet about shoulder width apart. When you're looking for the proper posture, the easiest way to do that is just to hop up, and your feet will land wherever you're most stable. It's a fun little thing to do with the boys when they're younger too, but you want to make sure they're not going to bump their noggins on the ceiling or ruin your risers or wherever your classroom environment is. But doing a little jump in to get into the right position can help. Bouncy knees, if you lock the knees, then you end up with blood pooling down here in the legs. Legs go numb, you faint or pass out. You're not really fainting or passing out, your legs just went numb and you fell off. That happened to me in one of my elementary choir concerts when I was in 5th grade. We were singing My Heart Will Go On from Titanic, so it was around 5th grade. And I've always been very tall, and so I was in the back row center of the risers singing, "Every eye in my dreams, I see." I wasn't very good in elementary school. "I feel you." And my legs completely went needles all the way up and down, and I just, and went right between the curtains. So my experience was sing, 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 ow, open eyes, dark. Don't know where I am. I can still hear the choir going. I don't know what's going on. I realized, oh, these are curtains in front of me. Okay, peel out and look. Wait until the audience applauds after that song, and then just sneak back up onto the risers and act like nothing happened. My teacher didn't even notice. So she was staring at the score the whole time. So I encourage you to memorize your score so you can tell if one of your students has fallen off the stage in the middle of your concert. However, I was fine. So keep those knees bouncy. Make sure that you don't get any blood pooling down there. You don't want your kids passing out. You want to teach that to your kids. It's very easy for them to stand like this for an hour, and it may not happen every year. It may not happen every decade. But if you're teaching for another 30, 40 years, you're going to have a kid pass out if you let them lock their knees. So make sure they get in the habit of the bouncing knees. It can help when you come into a concert. You come up to the choir, thank you, blah, 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 applause, applause, turn around, and just go to remind them. And doing to remind them, I see a lot of change. I didn't tell you to change your posture, but when I do this, you want to do this. The mirroring is natural. It's part of the brain. They're called mirror neurons. It's why monkeys are able to learn things. Monkey see, monkey do. It's brain science. It's neuroscience. When we see things, we have a part of the brain that when I see someone do this gesture, even if I've never done that before, my brain can figure out what neurons I would have to fire in order to do that, and then I can replicate that motion. It's actually the only thing that's happening when you're hiring a voice teacher or an instrumental teacher. You're hiring someone to hear the sound that you're producing, to use their brain to figure out what their body would have to do to produce that sound, to then analyze what's wrong with what their body is doing to produce that sound, and then correct what you're doing. With voice especially, I mean, it's one thing if you're a flute, trumpet, piano, you can see what they're doing, so it might just be more of a visual thing. With voice, I can't see what's happening in your throat. I can't see the vocal cords. It's actually a very uncomfortable process to see the vocal cords. I have a video on my website of my vocal cords. They take a metal tube with a camera on the end of it, stick it down your nose after numbing your nose and your throat, and then have you sing with a giant metal tube in your nose and your throat, which is not the most comfortable way to sing. It's called a stroboscope because there's a strobe light that strobes. Because the vocal cords move so fast, they're hard to see in real time. So that strobe light lets you slow down the motion of the cords to see what they're doing. They're really, really ugly and gross. You don't want to see them. But if you do want to see them, they're on my website. But you can't see that when you're singing. If I go la 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 la, all you see is lips, a little bit of teeth, maybe some tongue. You're not seeing any of this. You might see the bump of my larynx moving up and down a little bit, but you're not seeing any of the actual function of the instrument. All you can do is use your eyes and your ears and your brain to replicate in your body what would have to happen to make the sound that I'm making, and then correct that sound. So that's what we're doing with our kids all the time. We're constantly observing them and their sound and trying to correct that sound by figuring out how we can do it. We can influence them very easily. You don't have to instruct all of this technique, particularly for those of you that have preschool or kinder. You're not teaching them about the diaphragm and the rib cage and the elevation. You don't need to explicitly state that. You can look at them and say, okay, everyone stand like slackers, and stand like soldiers, and stand like singers. Very nice, very nice. So they'll model you very easily. If you make eye contact, if you hold their attention, and you move your body, it changes everything. Before every choir concert, and you introduce the choir, blah, 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 applause, applause, bow, turn around, I make eye contact, across the whole ensemble, we take a breath together, and I reset my posture from bottom to top, rolling everything up, making sure everything is nice and aligned for them. You can't say that. I mean, you could in elementary. You could walk up to your kids and say, stand up a little tall, feet apart, okay, hands at your sides, please. You could do that. It wouldn't be very professional to do that at the concert. But you can do this through just making eye contact and adjusting your body to show them what you want from them. Great, so we've got our feet shoulder width apart, we've got our bouncy knees. When your feet are flat together, you really lose your ability to stay on balance. You can stay balanced if you're straight up. Everybody put your feet flat together. You'll notice that you're pretty balanced when you're straight up. As soon as you start to lean a little bit, everything tightens up across your whole body to keep you from falling down, right? When all that stuff is tight, it can't be used for singing. You need all this relaxed and free so you can sing. So you want to find that about shoulder width. It can also help to have one foot slightly ahead of the other. You see I've got almost kind of a tripod angle, kind of triangle thing going on here. That helps you to have a much more stable position so you can lean in and out of the phrase, you can be more expressive, you can use your hands, you can lean in when the song feels that way, and you still don't lose the core of your instrument. So we got our feet, we got our bouncy knees, hips. This is particularly challenging for those of you who have the older elementary in the middle. You're gonna get a lot of duck butt. Super common nowadays. Very uncomfortable. Nothing wrong with that if you're walking around through the day. I mean, it looks kind of silly and funny, but totally fine. But when you're singing, the problem is if you do that, everybody stick your butt out a little bit. Yeah, keep your chest up. What you'll feel is the lower back and the abs tighten up. When you do that, you can't get a full breath. You can't sing well, you can't sing effectively. So if you think of taking the hips and rotating them a little bit under and forward, that helps you free up all of this muscular tension. And you might feel that difference. I hear a couple, interesting. Yeah, it's helpful for you too. Today is not just about your kids. You might need some of this core stuff too. A lot of us miss that. Not every teacher teaches everything. And there's plenty of stuff that's wonderful, beautiful, amazing technique that I won't be teaching you today because I don't know it. You can't know everything. But some of the things I'm giving you today might be useful for yourself personally. And that's okay. If you don't get anything for the classroom, but you just get something for yourself, that's amazing. Because teaching is the #1 profession in America for voice damage. Many teachers have to retire because they can't maintain the use of their instrument. Super common outside of music, but especially in music. You band people. You may think like, oh, okay, the singing thing not as big of a deal. You know, I do general music, but I don't do a lot of singing in the classroom. And okay, I just do band. It's fine. Your voice is still your instrument. You're using it all day long. And if you fry out your vocal cords, you're going to have a rough time for the rest of your career being able to continue to teach effectively. There's a lot of ways to teach with physicality and with interactive exercises and writing things on the board, but eventually you're going to need to say some words. It's kind of important. So all of this does not just apply to your singing voice, it also applies to your speaking voice. You have a much more beautiful, much more open, much more resonant and projecting, effective speaking voice when you use proper technique. So we've got our feet, we got our bouncy knees, we got our hips rotated forward, we got our shoulders rolled back. For the boys, I like to superhero cape or transformer. Thinking like you're a robot and just lock those shoulder blades back there. You don't want everything tight. You don't want it locked in. You want it nice and loose and relaxed. But at the start, you might have to get them to go to kind of an extreme place because they're used to sitting and standing like this all the time. This wasn't as common, again, 20, 30 years ago. You didn't have as much default posture like this, but we're doing this, and doing this, and doing this. and doing it all day long. Even for us, if you're at the piano, compared to this. Notice those things in yourself, because if this is all you're doing all day long, if this is your default posture, then trying to get to this feels like this, because it's so different from your default. So what I'd like you to do is slouch over completely, give me your texting shoulders, yeah, slouch over completely, and then go to the extreme opposite. Spread everything out, and then go back, slouch, and spread, and slouch, and spread, and find the beautiful middle. Nice and aligned, top to bottom. Feels a little bit easier now, right? Because you've gone to those two extremes. One of the things I like to talk about in my teaching is the pendulum principle, that it's much harder to go from where you are to where you want to be than it is to just blast past that and let yourself swing back to normal. Same thing with tone, same thing with pitch, same thing with rhythm, same thing with a lot of different concepts. So for example, you have a kid who's too wide. Ah, and you want ah. If you can get him to oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh. You can find that beautiful middle by swinging past it in both directions. Instead of just saying ah, too wide, taller. Ah, too wide, taller. Ah, too wide, taller. Ah, too wide, taller. That's boring and exhausting, and it doesn't work for the kids. You're going to push, 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 eventually get them to where you want. They come back next week, they've swung back here. If you can take them from where they are, swing them past, swing them back, swing them past, they end up settling in that beautiful middle. Same thing with posture. From here, go to there, you come back to that beautiful center. And you can do that before they go on. I wouldn't do it on stage. I mean, I would, because I'm weird, but you shouldn't do it on stage because I'm professional. Backstage, before they're about to go on, you can do that. You can say, okay, everybody, slouch over, and stretch, and slouch, and stretch, and find the singing posture. Beautiful. One of the other exercises I do with them for facial expression around the same idea is called lemon lion. You might be familiar with lemon lion. Show me your lemon face. Show me your lion face. Lemon, lion, lemon, lion, lemon, lion. Now it doesn't feel that weird to go, amazing grace, how sweet the sound, and engage the eyes and the cheeks and the face, because I've already done it. So I don't feel that weird when I just do, that feels fun. But that feels weird if my normal daily expression is this. And you have those kids, probably most of your kids. And then you say, okay, sing expressively for me. Amazing grace, no, sing with a smile. Amazing grace, more smile. Amazing grace, use the eyes. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. It helps to swing past. Shoulders are rolled back, feet, bouncing knees, rolled in hips. Very nice. And we're lining up that head top to bottom. A lot of people will give you the puppet analogy. There's a string pulling on your head, there's a string pulling on your rib cage. You're nice and balanced off those strings. That works really well. The one that I like a lot though is the bobbleheads. You have those? Yeah? You know the bobbleheads? So I don't want you bobbling while you're singing, but if you let a bobblehead sit there and it's not moving, it's lined up top to bottom, but the littlest motion, the littlest touch, and it can move very easily and freely. It doesn't resist moving at all. So I don't want this moving, but I want it to be able to move. The goal is that your neck and your face and your shoulders are so loose and free and relaxed that if I was to walk up and push your head, it would just go right over. It's actually a great way to practice it if you can get a friend or a partner. This is my piano teacher in college, Ginger Wally. Wonderful lady, and she would teach us body awareness and yoga classes for musicianship. So like once a week our piano class was going into the yoga studio and learning proper body alignment. And we would lay on the floor, and what she would do is come up behind us and cup the back of our heads and just move them around. And just say, let me move it, let me move it, don't resist. Don't push back at all, don't resist, just let me go. And it takes 2 or 3 weeks of that to learn how to just turn those muscles off. But once you do that, it opens up the sound so beautifully. If I tighten this up, amazing grace, how sweet, amazing grace, how sweet. You can hear that depth and richness that comes into the tone as soon as that's released. So roll those shoulders a little bit more. We're gonna take our ear down to our shoulder, and our chin down to our chest, and our ear to our other shoulder, and back up to center. It's not good to do the rolls all the way back because of the way the spine is structured. The vertebrae can pinch a nerve if you roll around the back of the neck. So just a back straight and forward, is better than rolling on the back there. The chances that you injure yourself are very, very small, but I have a long career ahead of me with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, so the chances that I would make somebody paralyzed by making them roll their head back are not minute. So I would appreciate it if you would tell your students not to do a full around roll, just back and straight. You can roll from side to front as much as you want, that's fine. It's a different structure of the vertebrae from the front to back. Beautiful. One more time, roll those shoulders back, feet, bouncy knees, hips forward, chest up tall and proud. Very good, and head up to the top. So we want that nice and relaxed all the way from bottom to top to bottom, nice and loose and free. Can you give me just a nice sigh? Oh! Beautiful, beautiful, very nice. And anytime I do a gesture, you're welcome to mirror that gesture if you would like, but I'm not going to require that today. I'll let you know if I need you to do the gestures, but if you see me do something, you're welcome to do it. There's a reason I'm doing it. So it helps me to sing better, it changes the sound. I don't have time to show you all the videos today, but I have videos on the website of the difference between singers singing when they stand and singers singing when they use their bodies to shape the sound. It's a big difference. Ask your kids to go, oh! 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 Feels different, doesn't it? Feels different when you do it. Feels really different for your kids. Many of you have been singing for 10, 15, 20, 40, 60, 80 years, probably not in this room, but you have a lot of experience singing. So you don't need all of this stuff to show you how to do it well, but your kids might. They may have never sung before they showed up into your classroom, so they need some of this stuff, and the physical learning is so much more powerful for the children than the spoken learning. It's more powerful for the adults too, but you have to pretend that adults learn different or else they think you're teaching them like children. So I have to act like you guys learn more from words than you do from actions, but it's not true. You learn way more from the physical stuff. That's why you're standing up and doing all of this right now, but I'm talking at you a lot to make you think that I'm giving you important content. This is not important. This is 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 stupid. Anyway, good. Stand up nice and tall. We got that nice, beautiful sound. Now we're going to talk breath. Breath is key to getting that beautiful sound. It is the fuel we use to deliver our vehicle of song. So our breath comes from the muscles inside our chest. Our breath comes from our, what? What do they call it? Just shout it out. Where does our breath go when you breathe in? Lungs! Our breath goes into our lungs. Our lungs are like little balloons that fill up with air. Lots of little tubes at the end of there at the anatomical level, but kids don't need to know that. Just tell them it's a balloon, it's fine. It fills up with air, and then it contracts. Now there's something around your lungs to keep them safe, because what happens to a balloon if you fill it up? What happens? It pops, right? You don't want to pop your lungs. That's bad news. So your brain is smart. It knows that you're a dumb monkey and that you probably would pop your lungs if it gave you complete control over your breathing. Your brain does not give you a lot of control over very much. You think that you walk, right? You guys all know how to walk, right? No, you don't. Your brain knows how to walk. Your body knows how to walk. Could you describe to me which muscles you're tensing and what you do in your body in order to walk? No, you can't. You know how I know that? Because robots can't walk. They've been trying for decades to teach them. They're just now figuring out how to make them walk because it's really, really hard. Your brain and your body does it. It doesn't let you control that stuff. You can't beat your heart. You have no control over that because your brain knows if it let you do it, you'd forget within 2 days and you'd just die and you'd be done. Maybe there were people down the evolutionary chain that had control over their heartbeat the way we can take control over our breath. And they're like, okay, beat, 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 beat. You wake up and you go beat, 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 beat. Okay, gotta brush my teeth. Beat, 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 beat. You get in the shower and like, oh yeah, this feels so. Oh, beat, 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 beat. It doesn't let you think about that. You only have control over very limited things. When you breathe, you don't want to breathe so big that you pop your lungs. So your body protects your lungs. What does it protect them with? Rib cage, exactly, your bones. Your kids take a little longer to figure that one out, but it's a rib cage. It's a cage. It contains and protects your lungs. You got these floating ribs on the bottom that don't connect. You got the ones at the top that connect with that sternum. So those ones can't move as much, but over at the bottom of the lungs, there's a lot of expansion that can happen. Everybody roll your shoulders forward. Small rib cage. Small rib cage means small lungs. Small lungs means small breath. Small breath means small voice. Roll the shoulders back, open up. When you roll back, you open up. Big rib cage, big lungs, big air, big voice. That's what we want. We need that shape. When I see someone in my choir standing like this, we're standing like this, we're standing like this, you are choosing to have a terrible voice. There's a lot of things you can't choose. The kid can't match pitch. He's not picking that. There's no kid who deliberately decides they don't want to match pitch. You may have had this experience in your choir of saying, altos, you're flat. Anybody said that in their choir before? Yeah? Yeah? Problem is, there's no kid in the history of the world who said, oh, you don't want us to be, I thought today was one of the days we're supposed to sing flat. Sorry, I didn't realize, I won't do that again. It's not helpful. It doesn't tell them what to do. You're just critiquing them. It It doesn't give them a pathway to success. So you need to tell them what the problem is. It might be tone, it might be they're not listening carefully enough, it might be breath support, it might be tension in the voice. There's 100 things that can cause it, but it's your job to figure out what those are. It's not your job to just tell them what's wrong. If you went to the doctor and the doctor said, oh, you have a broken arm. Like, okay, thanks, doc, I knew that. Can you fix it, please? That's your job. So your job is to fix the sounds, not to just identify what's wrong with the sounds. When you breathe, you fill up those lungs, you want as big a space as possible. If you have that big open rib cage, you got the space all the way around, 360 around the top here. You can't expand on the top. If you think that you can move the shoulders to make the lungs taller, it doesn't work that way. All you do when you lift the shoulders is you tighten up the throat, you tighten up the voice. Amazing grace, amazing grace. There's no extra breath to be had up here. There is extra breath to be had around here. There's also extra breath to be had down below. There is a muscle underneath your lungs that again keeps them safe and protected, but is there to help you increase your lung capacity. You probably know that word. Who knows which muscle I'm thinking of? Diaphragm, wonderful. So you say diaphragm and you think what you mean is, I know how to sing, I know how to breathe, I understand anatomy, I know the diaphragm. And you ask a kid, what's a diaphragm? And they go, it's like your tummy, right? Diaphragm is a fancy sounding science word that lets people pretend they know how to breathe when they don't actually know what's happening. That's what diaphragm means. But diaphragm is not a vertical, flat ab muscle. It is a horizontal, sort of bowl shaped, like an upside down bowl underneath your lungs. The main reason that it's there is actually for defecation. That it allows you to put pressure onto the guts and help you with elimination. It's also there for any kind of physical exertion. You'll notice that, say you had to pick up a car because there's a screaming child under the tire, you would hold that breath against the diaphragm to give you extra pressure in order to leverage against to get that lift. And that's actually what they teach in weightlifting profession. Lifting for the last 10 years, they teach you to use the diaphragm and the breath to control that exertion of motion. But what it allows us to do now is to increase our lung capacity by doubling the size all the way down there at the bottom. So if you suck in a breath and try to put it all up here in the chest, you're limiting so much of your breath capacity by blocking off your diaphragm. We often talk to our students about breathing from below, breathe with the belly, all that sort of stuff. The reason that's there is to get the diaphragm to drop. Again, like the heart, like the brain, you can't control your diaphragm. It's working on its own. It's autonomic. It does not have any kind of control nerves in there where you can move it. What you can do is give it space to do its job. And when you get out of the way of the diaphragm, it will drop on its own. So you need to get all this stuff out of the way. Because the diaphragm's at the bottom of the lungs, it helps you keep all your gut stuff from falling up into your chest. Back when we were monkeys in trees and you were hanging off by your tail, if you're going upside down, you don't want your liver and your spleen falling into your chest cavity and getting mixed up with your lungs and your heart. The people who tried that all died. So you have evolved to have a nice solid wall between your upper guts and your lower guts. Now you need to get those lower guts out of the way so the diaphragm can drop. Guts have to go somewhere. Can't go up, it's where the diaphragm is. Can't go down, there's legs there. They're full of leg stuff. They have to go out and around. So we're gonna work on expanding around our trunk. The best analogy I have for this I stole from a lovely lady named Karen Mead down in Tucson. She said, imagine you have a belt around your waist, and that belt is made of noses. And you wanna breathe in through all of those noses simultaneously. And expand into that space. Now you're breathing into the lungs. You're not breathing into the belly. But if you imagine you breathe into the belly, if you imagine you're filling your belly like a balloon, you get the right shape. If you actually breathe into your belly like a balloon, you get that's what happens when you breathe into your belly. You want the air in your lungs, not in there. The kids love that joke. I appreciate that you guys get enough of that from your 10-year-old boys. So I get that why I didn't get a laugh, that's fine. We're going to work on expanding the trunk around 360 degrees. So can you show me your thumbs? We're gonna take the thumbs, we're gonna stick them on our lower ribs. Find your lower rib, line up your thumb with your lower rib. We're gonna take those fingertips and let them touch in the front of our belly. Fingertips touching. Should be right above your belly button, depending on how large your torso is. I'm a 6'3" adult male. Most of you are not, so your proportions may vary. But we want those fingertips touching, those thumbs on the ribs, and somewhere around the belly button. Great. As you breathe in, you expand at the trunk. As you expand the trunk, I want you to push those fingertips apart with the expansion of your trunk. Watch me. Not that far apart, only a little bit, just a little teensy bit. And as I breathe out, the fingertips come back together. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed when you do that. Don't let yourself get hunched up. And breathe in deep. Fingertips apart. And breathe out. Good. Do another one. As you breathe in, belly comes out. And out. You could spend a few months on that with your kids. That's fine. Do it in very, very very small increments, 5-10 seconds a day. It doesn't need to be a lot. You can also work a little bit more of consistent airflow by just adding a hiss to that. So one more time, hands right there, breathe in deep, and hiss. Feel those ab muscles working? This is where the core of the sound comes from. This is off, this is relaxed. We're gonna do one more. You're gonna move your head around nice and gently while you do that. Breathe in deep. Very nice, very nice. Try tightening up your arms and your shoulders, and then try to move your head around loose like you did before. You'll notice it kind of moves like a sprinkler, like a robot, kind of jutting from side to side. That's a good cue for your kids. While they're singing, you can just do a little, and have them move their heads a little. You can easily do that while you're singing. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. You can move your head around there, and you'll know. If it feels like a paintbrush, you're relaxed. If it feels like a sprinkler, you're not relaxed. You might think you're relaxed, but you're not. You don't know. You're not aware of every muscle in your body that's tightened up. Everyone close your eyes for a second. Notice your feet. Notice your shoes. Notice the pressure on your feet. Notice the way your hair feels on the top of your head or on the side of your shoulders. Notice how big your tongue is inside your mouth. Notice how hard it is to control your breathing and to make it go automatic again once you start paying attention to it. A lot of these things are just done on their own. If you have a watch, maybe notice the feel of the watch on your wrist. Probably weren't noticing that 2 minutes ago. There's a lot of things going on that we're just ignoring all the time. You can open your eyes again. We ignore those things, and so you don't notice the accumulation of tension as you're singing. It can creep in, and all of a sudden at the end of the song, you realize you've been tightening everything up the whole time. So having those little motions to check in with, a little shoulder roll back, a little head nod, side to side. My goal with my students is that every breath is a full body relaxation. You breathe in, and the image I think of, which I've not found someone else who had this, maybe someone in the room has. When I went to summer camp as a kid, my camp counselor, to help us fall asleep every night, would do this like mental relaxation exercise thing. We're laying in bed in the dark, and we say, okay, I'm cracking an egg on top of your head, and it's dripping down your body. And everywhere it goes, down your neck, down your shoulders, just relaxes and loosens up. Down your chest, down your sides, and down your hips. Every muscle's letting go, down your legs, down to your feet. And then you'd be asleep by the time you were done. It was beautiful, it was a great little thing. I've not found other people who do it, but that's what I picture when I do a breath. Every breath is, just cover myself in eggs. So you want to relax from top to bottom every time. Just loosen everything up, keep it nice and free. Very good job on the ab stuff. I saw some nice motion there. You will get a lot of kids who do the opposite. It's very, very common to suck in a big breath. No. And you can just break that by asking them and say, do you want a lot of air in your body or a little bit of air? They'll say a lot of air. Okay, do you think you should make your body bigger or smaller if you want a lot of air? It's bigger. Okay, breathe. Is this smaller or bigger? Smaller. Okay, make it bigger. Good job. That's all you need. Put those thumbs there one more time. We're going to rotate those hands so your palm of your hand is on your ribs. Your fingertips are going down to your abs. Or down to your hips. Sorry. This is your intercostal muscles on the sides. We want to expand there too. So as you breathe in, feel those muscles push out, and breathe out. Very, very good. So you want that to be 360. If you put your hands on the small of your back, you might be able to feel a little bit of motion there too. That takes a while. You might need to work on that for a bit to get that. Breathe in deep and try to breathe into your lower back. And out. And the goal is that all the way around you engage all three of those. That's the sequence. Belly first, then sides, then back. Easiest way to teach the back is to have them lay on the floor. Slide your hand under that gap right there, and then press your hand into the floor using your back muscles. Then do it without the hand. You go up against a flat wall, do it up against a wall, step forward from the wall, come out into the space. Now you can do that. You might not get to that in elementary. I didn't learn it till high school. But if you know it as a teacher, you can reinforce that with your students and model it. And when you show that 360 breath, they're more likely to breathe that way. I saw several of you breathe with me as soon as I did that, even though you didn't necessarily need to. You probably weren't breathing that deep regularly. Most of us don't go, well, we're sitting listening to a PD, right? But if I look at you and go, you have that feeling that you want to join me in that motion, particularly because I'm standing at the front of the room and you're standing there watching me, so I'm clearly the important one, and so you want to model the important one. You are the important one in your classrooms. You are at the top of the dominance hierarchy. You get to show them how to use their bodies to make a beautiful, expressive sound. Great, now that we've got all of that from top to bottom, we've got the foundations, we can start making some beautiful sounds. Go ahead and show me feet, knees, hips, shoulders, chest, head, tall and relaxed. Deep belly breath, and sigh. Oh. you want to model for your kids, every kid should be taught how to sing in a beautiful, relaxed, floaty head voice as the default sound. They're singing in their chest all day long. They're talking in their chest all day long. They might be talking in the back of their throat, and that kind of valley girl voice, and sort of stuck down here. They might be talking like this and sort of stuck up in the front of the instrument, but generally they're talking in their chest voice. You might have the occasional person who's stuck in their head voice all the time, and everything is light and floaty and relaxed. And that person needs to be encouraged to embrace their chest voice, because they'll give you the sigh that you just gave me. Ah, that's as low as I can go. Ah, that's my bottom of my range. That's as low as. You may have had those students who just, oh, I can't sing those low notes. No, they just can't use their chest voice. Oh. Can you give me a full sigh from the top of your range to the bottom? Oh. Feels different, right? That's not what you did last time, right? Yeah, feels different. So you got to encourage kids to do that too. If they're not able to use their chest voice well, most of your students, that's not the case. They're using their chest voice 24/7. You're getting them for 25 minutes or 30 minutes, once or twice or 3 or 4 times a week. In that time, focus on the beautiful, floaty head voice. If you're not familiar with this terminology and you haven't had the vocal exposure, that's okay. It's a very simple concept. There are 2 little muscles inside the vocal folds. One is responsible for the deeper, richer, generally more spoken tones, the shouting, the calling, all those sorts of sounds. And one is more responsible for the light, floaty, gorgeous singing, relaxed, blendy sounds as well. So you've got your chest voice. This is the exercise I do with all my kids. Can you say, this is my speaking voice?
This is my speaking voice.
This is my chest voice.
This is my chest voice.
This is my singing voice.
This is my singing voice.
This is my head voice.
This is my head
That's
voice.
all your kids need to know, is that much. But for you, it can help to know a little bit more of the anatomy. Show me your palm. Put it flat on your neck and swallow. It's your Adam's apple that you feel moving there, or your Eve's orange, whatever you want to call it. It's also your larynx, your voice box, your vocal cords, your vocal folds. You can take your hand down from your throat now. If you just want to choke yourself with the rest of the PD, that's fine. I had some PDs that it made me want. We'll put that aside. We have our larynx, our voice box, our vocal folds moving up and down there inside your throat. Those vocal folds, we call them folds in the scientific community because they're big flaps of muscle. They're not like a long string like on a violin. That mental image is incorrect. They're just flaps of muscle. But they're about the size of your thumbnails. Look down at your thumbs. Really, really teeny, small little muscles, and they're very well controlled and very specific, and they move very, very fast. You take your hand flat like this, move it up and down 1 time per second. 1, 1, 1, 1. 2 times per second. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 3 times per second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 200 times per second. Not going to happen, right? Now, you're not thinking about how fast your vocal cords are moving when you sing, and you're not thinking about it when you speak. Even if you never sing, when you speak, your voice is going up and down. It's moving around, because if it doesn't, then you're a very boring person and people do not want to talk to you. If you are actually tone deaf and you have no ability to move your voice in any direction and you do not recognize pitch whatsoever, then you do not know the difference between a sentence and a question. This is a sentence. This is a question. It moves up in pitch at the end. That's how you know it's a question. If you think someone's tone deaf, ask them, are you tone deaf? If they answer you, they're not tone deaf because they knew it was a question. So they just don't have enough discrimination. They have the broad idea of high and low sounds. They don't have the fine-tuned discrimination to hear the pitch differences. If you turn around and look at that the map that's on the wall right there, I got a lot of different colors there. Who can tell me one color they see on that map? Just shout it out.
Orange.
Orange, blue, purple. I heard. Great. Who can tell me a more specific color that isn't just a generic rainbow color?
Magenta.
Violet, magenta. Great. What else?
Lavender.
Lavender. Lovely. Turn back around. So, most of our kids know the core colors. Orange, green, blue, red, yellow. They may not know seafoam or periwinkle or lavender, right? That takes finer discrimination. All you're doing is taking this wide range of light spectrums from 550 million hertz to 650 million hertz, and instead of just saying, all this is red, saying, this is crimson, and this is cranberry, and this is red, and this is just gonna be, this is gonna be blood red, and this is gonna be periwinkle, this is gonna be seafoam, and this is gonna be forest green, and this is gonna be navy blue. That fine discrimination is what's happening when you go from hearing a sentence to hearing a question. That's your core rainbow. When you get to the pitches there, you're getting that more fine discrimination. Then you're starting to hear a lot more specifically. When you can hear in-tune and out-of-tune notes, you're hearing even more specifically. When you sing, you're doing really complex math. Can I just get everyone to sing? Whichever octave is comfortable. Lovely, thank you. Beautiful sound, I appreciate it. Not everyone sings for me, so thank you very much. those singing in the lower octave, that is 220 times per second that your vocal cords are moving. For those singing up here, that's 440 times per second. Every octave doubles the frequency. If you're a high soprano, once you get above that high A over the staff, that's an 880, you start getting into the thousands of times per second. Those little teeny muscles the size of your thumbnails are moving thousands of times per second next to each other. And you live in a desert. Do you think they are well lubricated? Do you think they are well hydrated? Probably not. Your students should have a water bottle with them in every rehearsal, as should you. You are professional voice users. Even if you don't consider yourself a singer, you are a professional speaker. You are using your voice more in most days than most professional speakers do. You use your voices more than I do. I have 2 or 3 hours of this sort of thing a day, and then I have 1 or 2 hours of lessons and rehearsals in the afternoon. Many of you have far more than that you're using your voices in front of your classroom. You are professional voice users. You need to treat them well because it's very easy to damage them. They move very, very fast. If there's any tension in here at all, that creeps into the cords, and then that friction can cause damage long term. So we want to keep this as free and relaxed and open as possible. Oh! Pet peeve, I encourage you to address this with your students. Peanut butter mouth. I went, oh, I heard, ah. Please don't smack your lips every time you sing. It's probably because you're dehydrated and your mouth is getting a little dry and sticky. So please try to make sure that your breath is always open and relaxed and free and not, ah. That's a very odd, uncomfortable way to start a sound. Oh. Beautiful, much more beautiful breath. Thank you very much. Gorgeous. So, a few technical things that can cause challenges with pitch matching. The core assumption should be that it's a technical problem, that it's something wrong with what they're doing for their singing, that you can teach them something better. So sloppy posture, amazing grace, is going to make it sharp or flat? Flat, right? Fix the posture, maybe you fix the singing. Amazing grace, great. Poor breath support. Amazing grace, how sweet. Sharp or flat? Flat. Better breath. Amazing grace, better, right? Awesome. Nasality. Everything's way closed off, way closed, everything's up in the nose. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Sharp or flat? Sharp. There are some things that cause the intonation to go in the wrong direction, right? But you can use those as tools to lift the pitch up when the pitch is drooping. If you add a little bit of ring, a little bit of nyeh into the sound, it'll usually boost that pitch a little bit. So I use that gesture in order to encourage my students to come out a little bit more bright, a little bit more ringy, because most kids sing flat, they don't sing sharp. So if you go and use that, it can bring them back up. Everyone take 2 fingers, put them on your cheekbones, press right into those bones. Press nice and hard. You're gonna go, sing. Sing. It's always funny, because music teachers, when I do that, you just pick the pitch that I'm just saying words. I'm not picking a pitch. So you can do it wherever's comfortable in your voice. Sing. Sing. Good, and then you still did the slide with me, so that's fine. You're great echoers, you're great modelers, it's beautiful, good job. So what I want you to feel is that buzzy buzz in your fingertips, in the sinus cavities. Do it one more time, hold that NG, and try to feel that buzz in your fingertips. Sing. Sing. And then try to turn that off. Try to go, sing. Go in the back of your throat. Sing. Yeah, so it's still going to be there because the NG forces air up through here, but you can control it a little bit, right? You can bring it more forward or more back. When you use that, you can get that pitch to correct a little bit if it's a vowel issue, if it's a tone issue, not usually if it's a breath or a posture issue. So if you're asking for that tall, rich, beautiful choral sound from your students, oh, everyone with me, oh, beautiful. Now if you're used to, sing that with me. Ah. Good, good. Now if I tell you to go, oh, what do you think's going to happen? Oh. What happens?
Went flat.
Went flat. Pitch goes down. Because you're getting that taller vowel. It's not the ears. It's not that they can't sing in tune. It's that you're asking them for a taller vowel and they haven't made that sound before. 99% of your students have never heard a tall, rich, beautiful choral operatic tone. That's not a thing. Parents don't play that music for their kids anymore. Maybe 1, maybe 5% of your kids, not the vast majority of your kids. So you need to model that for them. You need to show them what a beautiful tone sounds like, and you need to show it in tune. That ring exercise can help with that. If you have the kids going, oh, singing, nya, 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 oh, when you bring it out to the front of the instrument, it fixes the pitch. Everyone give me a tall, hooty, back of the throat, out of tune. Now put a little bit more of that ring on there. Keep all that space. Keep all that beauty, all that tall tone. Just put a little bit of this in there. Go nyah, nyah, nyah. Easier to sing in tune now, right? So often, posture, breath support, tone, vowel, that'll screw it up. Another thing that might be happening in your ensemble is that you hear things that are out of tune that are actually not out of tune. And the reason for that is if the vowels are not perfectly lined up, it will sound out of tune. The reason for that is that the only difference between two different vowels or two different instruments is a thing called timbre. You may be familiar with that word, but you probably, again, like diaphragm, timbre is a fancy sounding word that tells you to stop thinking. What timbre is the structure of overtones over that fundamental pitch. When I play, if this was a real piano, that string is vibrating, but it's also vibrating from its full length. This is 110. It's vibrating its full length. It's also vibrating at the halfway point, independently. That's where you get that 220. It's half as long, so it vibrates twice as fast. It's also vibrating at that 440, that next octave, in the quarters, but it's also vibrating at the third. You have those three lengths. So you've got 110, 220, 330. New note. Ooh, I got that fifth. 440, octave again, because 440 is twice of 220, it's twice of 110, right? Then I've got, my 550, which is going to be my major third. Then I got my 660, which is double 330, so I got another fifth in there. Then I got kind of a half, like a flat 7, sort of 6-ish thing. It's not reflected in actual intonation. The pure intonation of the overtones is not perfectly matched to a piano. That's why you have equal temperament, well-tempered pianos. You have to shrink all the half steps so you can play in tune in every key. When you sing or when you play a wind instrument or when you play in a string ensemble, you can adjust to pure intonation, which lets you get those rich, beautiful, ringy, pure vowels. I say all that to say, all those notes, those higher notes are hidden in that lower tone. I'm not very good at it, but I can try to model the overtone singing for you. I've been working on it the last couple of years. I have friends who can do it and actually sing two melodies at the same time doing their overtones, but let's see. Getting that mi, re, do, re, mi. So every vowel has those in there. All I'm doing is highlighting the overtone so much that it's almost as loud as the fundamental. Generally what happens is that fundamental, the pitch you're singing, is super loud, and then all the other overtones are like this. When I go, that one shoots up and is much louder. That's all I'm doing. When you sing beautifully in tune, all of those line up and they start to show up in there. If you're listening barbershop, if you're listening to a good a cappella group like pentatonics, if you're listening to string quartet, wind quartet, you'll hear some of those overtones start to pop out because they're able to play in pure intonation. Piano, not so much. Band, not so much. Much harder. The structure of those overtones and their relative balance is what makes timbre. Timbre is overtones. That's all it is. If you strip down the pitch to just the fundamental, from my voice, from that piano, from a violin, they sound identical. It's just like a pure sine wave. That's all you get. You have to add those overtones to get the color, the structure, the beauty of the sound. So when you sing two different vowels, the overtones clash. And that's why it sounds out of tune. Can I get everyone to sing medium pitch? Good. Give me your tallest, most beautiful Gorgeous. Very, very nice. Thank you. That's a beautiful sound. You have lovely voices. You're all qualified to teach singing. Good job. A+. Actually a D natural. But can I ask now to sing your widest, most nasal Tall girl Switch between the two at your own pace. Front row. Back row. Sounds out of tune, right? Not out of tune. You're singing the exact same notes, your overtones are out of tune. So fixing the vowels can fix intonation issues sometimes, if that's the problem. Fixing tone. Bringing the tone up to the front, breath support. Posture. Tension. All those factors affect the intonation. So that's what the core of your students need. The 90%, the 95%, maybe the 99%. You might have a really good class of kids who love to sing, but there's that little chunk that needs a little something extra. That's what we're going to talk about now. Have a seat. Thank you. That was the vocal technique chunk there. We paused on the Gordon stuff. We're going to come back to that now. So if you want to look at that first page there with that pyramid again, we were talking listening, speaking, thinking, reading, writing. I use movable do solfege with a law-based minor. I am a Kodai trained educator. I was president of the Arizona Kodai Society for the last 2 years. I am on the national board for Kodai Educators Society. I am very, very dedicated to that methodology. However, I'm also fluent in a do-based minor, in fixed do, and in numbers for my systems as well. Lulus, intervals, all that sort of stuff is okay too. I would highly encourage you though to have some sort of structure, some sort of methodology you use for teaching pitch to your students. Whether it's movable do with hand signs, which is my preferred system, numbers, fixed do, letter names, interval names, there's other ways of doing it, but have something so that the kids have a label to attach to the sounds. Because if I'm asking you to distinguish all those different colors on the wall, but I don't give you names for the different colors, it's gonna be kind of hard, right? The ancient Greeks and Romans used to talk about the deep wine red of the sea. Does the sea look wine red to you? No, they didn't have a word for blue. So there was no blue. It's red, sea's red. As close as I can get to it, looks red to me. That's all they had. You need more terminology. The analogy I use for students for when they're ready for this sort of labeling of pitch is the toy you had as a kid, that box with all the holes in it. You had a square hole and a circle hole and a triangle hole. You had your little blocks. You had your cube block and you had your sphere block and you had your pyramid block. And you would try to fit them into the holes. And for the first couple of years, they take the square block and they try to shove it in the circle hole and it just doesn't fit. They're not ready for you to say, no, honey, that's a square. It goes in the square hole, not in the circle hole. They don't know what a square is. If they knew what a square is, they'd put it in the hole, because those are both squares. So if they're ready for that term, they know that those two are the same thing. That knowledge has to come before the label. You can't label something that they can't identify. If they can't look at that and say those two things look the same, then they're not ready for the name of what that thing is. They're not ready for the concept of mom until they realize that many different people have moms, and there's lots of different moms, and different people can be moms. At the beginning, mom is just my mom. Some other kid goes, Mom, pick me up. And you're like, that's not mom. Why do you call her mom? What's going on? That's not, oh, we can have lots of moms. Oh, okay, there's lots of, she has a different mom. Okay, that's okay. That's why your kids will often call you mom when you get there. Because they've learned that adult female who takes care of me all day is mom. And then they come to class, and you are adult female who takes care of me all day. So they might accidentally call you mom for those first couple of years, or dad, or something else. Same thing when you say, you teach a kid, oh, this small fluffy thing with 4 legs in our house is called doggy. Oh, doggy, okay, doggy. And they see this other one, it comes up and goes, meow, and starts rolling like a doggy. No, that's a kitty. Okay, kitty, okay. It's still furry and has 4 legs, but the ones that say meow, those are, oh, okay. And you start driving down the road, and you hear, and they look over and they go, big kitty. Not big kitty, cat. Ugh, there's so many words. It's so hard. Yeah, there's a lot of words. There's a lot of pitches. There's a lot of syllables. There's a lot of stuff going on in music. They can't get those labels until they're ready to identify what the differences are between those sounds. So that's what we're going to build up right now with this sequential vocabulary. We're going to start with the listening. Sit up nice and tall. Show me your singer's posture. Thank you very much. If you can't hold yourself to that for 1 to 2 hours, you cannot hold your kids to it for 1 to 2 hours. Oh. Thank you very much. Some of them are just for me. I do that all day long. I've done it in job interviews and in first dates before. My first job, in the middle of the interview, she was asking me about technology or something, and I was like, well, you hired me because of my website, so I'm obviously good at technology. I'm like in the middle of a rant or whatever, and boom! And so anyway, I was doing, and the principal is an 85-year-old former math teacher, is just like looking at me strange. Oh, no, so vocal health is one of the most important things in my life, and so I do a lot of sighs and sirens throughout the day to make sure that my voice stays relaxed. She loved it because the priority of vocal health, she had students who had vocal surgery for vocal loads as high school musical theater kids. So helpful throughout your day to go, oh, just reset that relaxed, floaty head voice so you're not stuck in this kind of tense, gravelly voice. Oh, it can be very nice. You can always tell my schools because there'll be kids in the hallway going, oh, just walking down the halls. That's wonderful. Makes me so happy. They're so weird. I love kids. They're great. So some of those are just for me. When I go, if you do it too, it'll freak me out. Because I believe that that's inside my head and that you can't hear it, because it's just a thing I do for myself. So in those cases, I might freak out. But if I do the gestures, I'm doing it for you. So if I go, oh, I'm encouraging you to. Thank you very much. You don't need to do the gestures too, but the gestures invite you to join me in the sound. Thank you very much. So we're going to build up our vocabularies here. I'm going to use movable do solfege. Is anybody in here, who in here is familiar with solfege? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Great. Everybody here has used it before and is comfortable, or just it has been exposed to it? Yeah? Exposure? More exposure? Great, great. Anybody else who uses a different system than that in their classroom? No, either no system or movable do solfege. Cool, thank you. That's helpful, so I'm gonna stick with that. You can replicate all of this with numbers, with fixed do, with letter names, with any other system, but I'm gonna use that because A, there's a nice little chart on the wall, which is wonderful. B, I am a Kodai educator, so that's what I do. First, we're gonna build up that listening vocabulary. We're gonna get some patterns in your head so that we can do something with those patterns later. All right, close your eyes. Your only job is to listen. Side note, it's really helpful to make mistakes in front of your students because they often see you as the expert in the room, as the wonderful, amazing, highly skilled musician. You might be the best musician they've ever met in their life. You likely are if they're still really young. Maybe by middle school they've gone to a concert or something, or they have a friend or a kid, a relative or something that performs music. You might be the best musician they've ever met in their lives though. So when they see you doing these things, they often think, I can't do that, that's too hard. But when you make a mistake in front of them and admit it and say, oh, I'm sorry, I played some wrong notes, I sang some wrong notes there, it gives them permission to try and to fail. And I found that in my PDs, it's very effective when I work with teachers to make mistakes, because it can be very easy to look at everything I'm doing and say, oh, he knows a whole lot of things and he has all these things, he's practiced it so much, he's really, really good at all this stuff. But I sing something out of tune, you go, hey, the guy who's teaching me how to teach kids to sing in tune also sings out of tune. Maybe I could do this too. I had someone at a PD once ask me, so you plan the mistakes ahead of time for your session? You don't need to plan them. You don't need to plan them, they happen on their own. I highly encourage you to just embrace them when they happen. It's very easy, especially with the elementary choir, to say, let's come in when I cue you. Ready? Ah, ready?
Ah.
No, that cue is on beat 1. Why'd you come in on beat 4? Come in on beat 1. Yeah, I told you to come in on beat 1, but I'm giving you the cue on beat 4. It's very easy to say, no, it's on beat 4. Just do it on beat 1. Ah, there you go. Yeah, you fixed it. Good job, guys. No, you fixed it. Admit that to them. Admit that to them. Let them see that you made some mistakes and work through it together so that they can feel comfortable making mistakes. Because if they don't feel comfortable making mistakes, they won't participate. Music is terrifying and scary. It's very, very hard. Public speaking is one of the scariest things in the world. I'm sure you're familiar with the surveys that show people are more scared of public speaking than of dying. If you're at a funeral, they'd rather be the one in the casket than the one at the podium. But add in the question of, okay, public speaking or public singing? Would you rather talk for 5 minutes or sing for 5 minutes? What do you think you see? Most people are terrified of the singing. I have done many, many concerts where I've had my kids up there and I've gone up to the audience and said, okay, who in this room would love to trade places with their child right now and sing with me? And you get some hands, the drama parents, the people living vicariously through their children, want their moment of light on Broadway, but 99% of them don't raise their hands. Say, how many of you would come up here if I paid you $200 right now and sing a song with me? And you see some more hands. You say, $5,000. You see quite a few more hands. You say, $10,000. You see quite a few more hands. Still some hands that don't go up though. Still some people who are just, I didn't say sing good. I said come up here and sing. You can sing terribly. 10 grand, not gonna do it. No, too scary. More scary than 10 grand for a lot of people, a lot of those parents, and for some of your kids. So if you're scared of making mistakes in front of them, there's no way they're gonna give it any shot. I really appreciate that we have several in the room who are not comfortable as singers, who are trying and making sounds right now. That is risky and dangerous, especially as an adult, especially in a room full of music teachers. That's horrifying. Bravo, seriously, like, that's brave. Way braver than anything I'm doing right now. I've done the same speech like 40 times. This is not hard. But what you're doing is hard, very hard. So, bravo. But your kids are going through that every single day. And every new concept you give to them is an entirely new experience, just like you're having right now. So I encourage you, if there's any part of you that hesitates when we do these sorts of things and you don't want to participate a little bit and you're a little bit reserved, I encourage you to go into that feeling and find more experiences like that. I went on a first date to a country dancing class one day, could barely even keep the beat. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so humiliated and embarrassed. Like, I'm a professional musician and I can't dance in tempo. Horrifying. But that is not as scary as a 6-year-old doing their first solo at the Christmas concert. That's way scarier, because they have no idea if that whole audience is going to stand up and boo them. They've seen that. They're watching American Idol. They're watching X Factor. Yeah, ha ha ha. No, not funny. They see that. They see that when someone sings and it's not very good, everyone makes fun of them and yells at them. That's all they see. How many times have they seen someone sing okay, mediocre, not so good? Never in their lives. They've seen Beyonce, and they've seen people humiliating themselves on talent shows. That's all they've seen, and they know they're not Beyonce. So what do they think they are? Bottom 1%. They don't see the middle 98%. So let them see that yes, you're good, you're great, you might be the best musician they've ever seen, but sometimes you make terrible sounds. Sometimes you mess up, sometimes you make mistakes. That's okay, we all make mistakes, and we all want to learn and grow. Again, did not plan those mistakes ahead of time. I promise you, I'm genuine mistakes every time. So you did your listening. We heard our patterns. We heard everything that we were going to work on there. Now we're going to start moving from that listening vocabulary, where we're establishing our foundation, into our speaking vocabulary. So I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. You can stay in your octave, ladies. That's fine. Beautiful, great job. Speaking is rote repetition. In language, the dog bit the man.
The dog bit the man.
The man went to the store.
The man went to the store.
The man drives a car.
The man drives a car.
Very good, spoken vocabulary. So listening is you hear it first, speaking is you can repeat the sounds that you've heard. You can only repeat sounds that you've already heard. So they need to hear as many sounds as possible, build up their listening vocabulary so that they can produce more sounds. Thinking vocabulary is the thing that we miss so much as educators. It's the third level above the speaking. It's being able to recreate the sounds that you've heard before and that you've spoken before and rearrange them into different orders. You're not creating new sounds. You're not composing. You're taking elements you've heard before and rearranging them. We had our 3 sentences before. The dog bit the man went to the store, the man drives a car. Who can give me a new sentence that only uses words we've used before? Use all the words, some of the words, from those 3 sentences and no new words. Give me a new sentence. Who has a new sentence? What do we got, Candy? The dog bit the man at the store. I didn't use at, but good. You used, so what you did was you used an element that combined 2 parts of the others. That's fine. You took some, you could say the dog bit the man and the man went to the store. And is a nice little combiner that puts 2 things together into one. You can do that with your patterns too. Do, re, mi, do, re, mi, re, do.
Mi, re, do.
Who can combine those 2 into something new? Put them together with an and. Anybody? If you're feeling terrified to sing in front of a group of music teachers, maybe your kids would feel that too. Can you put the 2 together? Yeah, go for it.
Do, re, mi, 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 re, do.
Lovely. She added an extra me in the middle there. Who can do something else instead of that? You could just stick them together. You could change them around a little bit. Who can do something a little different using do, re, mi, and mi, re, do?
Re, do, re, mi, do.
Oh, beautiful. She took all the elements and rearranged them a little bit. So we've got lots of variation, lots of things we can do. We can take them and stick them right together. We had an extra added note. We could do it without the added note. Do, re, mi, re, do. You could do it without the extra mi. That's what a lot of people do in these sessions when I ask them. They'll sing do, re, mi, re, do. But that's not just combining the 2. That's cutting one out. If your 2nd grader can hear do, re, mi, re, do, and then you say combine those 2 and sing it for me. They go do, re, mi, re, do. They've done something really complex. They took those 2 and said, oh, these 2 pitches repeat. I don't think they need to repeat. I think it would sound better if I removed that pitch and just kept this one here. She said, oh, these two repeat. I think it would sound even better if I had another one in the middle and I repeated it again. That's a very creative choice. That is the seeds of their symphonic composition when they're 25. That is the seeds of the opera they want to write when they're 30. It's very, very small, but that gets them started. And the reason so many of us don't teach thinking vocabulary, we don't teach them to hear music in their heads and reproduce it. I apologize for all the circles that I'm ripping up off the floor.
Don't worry.
The reason we don't teach them to improvise, to think with music, to speak musical language, is because it's hard. And you see the teachers that teach their kids to do 16-bar compositions and play them on the piano and play them on orff instruments, and you're like, I don't have time. I have concerts, I have standards, I have 30 minutes once a week. I can't get that in my classroom, but you can do this. You do little patterns and make them do something different. We're gonna add another pitch, and I wanna show you how I would add a pitch using a concept from Kodai, prepare, present, practice. So first, we're gonna sing a song together. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. I would never do that with a student. I would never do that with a group of kids. You want to sing it for them a lot more than that when they first sing it. You know the song. You're also musicians. If you didn't hear that version of the song, you can pick it up really quick. Kids can't. They need to hear it a couple times. So what I might do is say, who can tell me how many lambs there are in this song? Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Show me with your hands, how many lambs? See some 3s, some 4s, some 1s. Oh, that was interesting. I like that. It's like a philosophical answer. There's only one lamb in the song. I meant how many times do I say the word lamb? I like that answer. That's nice. That's like a good riddle, isn't it? She had a little lamb. It's very clear. It's right there in the line. She had a little lamb. Very clever. I like that. That's hilarious. I'm going to use that in future sessions. Thank you very much. Very funny. 4. So now we're listening for that, and I'd say, okay, I see different numbers around the room. So one more time, let's all count them together. Can you all say lamb whenever I say lamb? Mary had a little
lamb,
little
lamb,
little
lamb.
Mary had a little
lamb
whose fleece was white as snow. 4, right? Awesome. So now you've heard the song 3 times. You've laughed, you've been silly, you've got the song in your head, now they're ready to sing it. They've heard it a bunch already. Find some excuse. Colors, variations, and say, what animal should Mary have today? Miss Brittany, what animal should Mary have today that's not a lamb?
Dog.
A dog. Let's hear that together. Mary had a little
dog,
little
dog,
little
dog.
Mary had a little
dog.
whose fleece was white as snow. That doesn't sound right. Should the dog be white as snow? I think the dog should be a different color. What about Miss Kira? What color should the dog be?
Lime green.
Lime green. Lime green. Mary had a little
dog,
little
dog,
little
dog.
Mary had a little
dog.
whose fleece was
lime green.
as snow. I don't think it should be lime green as snow. If snow is lime green, that's not good news. What should be lime green? Miss Julie, what should be lime green? What's something else that's lime green?
A lime.
A lime! Wonderful choice. Let's all sing it together with our new words. Ready? Mary had a little dog, little dog, little dog. Mary had a little dog whose fleece was lime green as limes. Dogs don't have fleece, right? They have fur, so now we gotta fix that. So, you see what I'm doing. I did not plan that ahead of time. I knew I was gonna use Mary had a little lamb, but I didn't know what variations I would use. I just pulling it out. You gotta practice that. It's going to be awkward and uncomfortable at first with your kids, but if you find excuses to do the songs 3, 4, 5 times before they sing it, you'll find it so much easier. If they practice it wrong, they hear it once or twice and they try to sing it, and they sing some wrong notes, it's so hard to break those wrong patterns. It's literally impossible. What's happening in the brain is every time you do a certain action, myelin wraps around the neuron chains that produce that action. So everything you do, certain neurons, some combination of brain cells, fire together. That pathway gets a wrapping around it, like insulation on a wire, called myelin. It's a sheath of fat that goes around the wire so it can fire more effectively. The more you fire it, the thicker that gets. So for most of you, driving from home to school is a very thick chain. You can pretty much do that on autopilot. You can listen to a podcast, you can put on music, you can zone out, and you're just at school. You don't have to think about every single step. But if you get a new job and you're going to a new school, you have to think about every step of the way. You're building more myelin. Once they practice it wrong 3 or 4 times, they've got that myelin sheath on there, and you can't remove that. It's fatty tissue in your brain. It's there. The only way it goes away is if you don't use that chain at all for a very long period of time, and it slowly rots and degrades. If you want to make the muscles in your arm bigger, you can lift weights every day. If you want to make the muscles in your arms smaller, you just need to wait and not use them and not eat. That's hard. It's much harder. It's easy to get rid of muscles, I'll tell you. But it's much harder to do anything to get rid of that than it is to build a new chain. So teach it right the first time. You won't have to reteach it constantly. So I encourage you to, first, I'm showing you how to teach that song. What I'm doing with that song is I'm using it to give you a new musical element you haven't used yet. What I would like you to do, class, is to raise your hand when you hear the highest note in the song. If you hear the highest note in the song, I want you to raise your hand. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow. Beautiful. I saw a lot of hands raising on little lamb. That was our high note, right? Very, very nice. Can we sing some of this song in solfege? Listen to me first. Mi, re, do, re, mi, mi, mi. Mi, re, do, re, mi, mi, mi. Beautiful. Very good job, class. Excellent work. Can you show me on your body what notes we are singing? We're going to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb very, very slowly, and we're going to use our body to show. We're going to start in our heads. When we sing me, mi, 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 re, 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 do, 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 do. Watch. Mi, re, do, re, mi, mi, mi. Try. Mi, re, do, re, mi, mi. Beautiful. Mary had a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Little lamb. Little lamb. Lit. Lit. Very nice. And what do we do on our high notes? Who can show me? Very good. Whenever we get to the high note, we're going to do that. Whenever we hear a me, we're doing this. Whenever we hear a re, we're doing this. Whenever we hear a do, we're doing this. Everybody sing with me nice and slow. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had. We'll skip the rest for time's sake. So what you're showing me when you do that is that you're hearing that there's a different sound that is not the same as the other sounds we've heard before. Can we sing it all on solfege a little bit faster this time? And when you get to the high note, just sing high, high for high note. High, high when we get there. Ready? Mi, re, do. Mi, re, do, re, mi, mi, mi. Re, re, re. Mi, high, high. Mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, do. Good, good. Excellent, excellent, beautiful. I would never skip that with the kids. We are crunched for time. And I am going far over into all the content. But I'm glad, because we're getting a lot of good material here today. And I apologize, I'm not going to give you a break in the middle because it would be ludicrous now because there's 22 minutes left. So, beautiful. You've shown me that you know there's something that is outside of your current knowledge base, and you are identifying it. Just like if I had the blocks and the box. You took a square block and put it in the square hole, and a circle block and put it in the circle hole, and a triangle block and put it in the triangle hole, and then there's a star-shaped block left over, and there's no star hole. And the kid is showing you like, oh, I know this one doesn't belong in this box. It belongs in a different box. I don't know what it's called, but I know it doesn't belong in this box. It's not a square, and it's not a triangle, it's not a circle, it's something else. It doesn't belong there. They've identified there's something new that they need to know. Now they're ready for a label. Echo after me. We've already done the solfege echoes as well. Do, re, mi.
Do, re, mi.
Mi, re, do.
Mi, re, do.
Now I'm going to sing on Lu and you sing on solfege. Lu, lu, lu.
Do, re, mi.
Lu, lu, lu.
Mi, re, do.
Lu, lu, lu.
Mi, re, mi.
Lu, lu, lu.
Mi, do, do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Excellent job, my friends. Can you show me with your hands on your body what I'm singing? Hard notice with your eyes closed so you can't see your neighbors. That's called differentiated instruction. You can still keep your eyes open if you need to. Lu, lu. patterns and they want to see what the patterns are. They want to keep those patterns going. That's one of the reasons that repeated notes are one of the hardest things in music, because like I told you before, many people when I do do, re, mi, re, do, combine those as do, re, mi, re, do, they cut out the repetition. You may have seen that thing online of like the long sentence talking about the study from Stanford that showed that repeated words get ignored when people read them in a sentence, and then you see that there was 2 thes in the sentence, but you didn't notice it, right? Because our brains just correct that automatically. They say, I don't need 2 thes, so I'm gonna just ignore that. And you look back and like, wait, how did I miss all those extra thes? That's what happens with the notes too. When you're singing, and there's repeated notes, sometimes your brain just wants to jump to the next note. That happens with kids sometimes. That's sometimes the reason they're singing incorrect notes. So, what I've done so far now, you've heard the pitches, you've echoed them back. You're now establishing that you can hear the labels. I don't need to tell you, here's the square, put it in the square hole. I'm saying, here, put this where it belongs. And you're identifying that that is in the square hole. I'm saying, hello, and you're saying, me. You've given me a label. I pointed to Africa, and you said orange. You know the label now. Now, what happens when we have a new element? Can you show me with your hands when we have our high note too? You show me, okay, I can hear that new sound. I'm ready for the name of it, because when you sing it, I know what it is. I don't know what its name is, but I know that it's up there. I'm hearing the difference. If I'm singing, hello, and their hands are here, and then I go, hello, and their hands are here, and I go, hello, and their hands are here, they're not ready. They need more practice, they need more listening, they need more echoing. Then they're ready for more labels. So you show me that you're ready for so. So, prepare. We sing Mary Had a Little Lamb 1,000 times for a couple months. You've got a song with everything you know, mi, re, do, and one new thing. Just so. One time. Little lamb, only new thing. One new thing. Not 5 new things, including one that you want to teach and some others you're doing later. One new thing. That's the presentation song. So we prepared it by getting it in their ears. We haven't told them what the note's called yet. Now we're going to present. We sing that song one more time. We say, friends, can you show us our new high note whenever I get there in the song? Everybody sing together. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Everyone's ready for the name. So we know that we have mi, re, do, re, mi, re, mi. Hi, hi. That note is called so. Can everyone sing so, so, so,
so?
Beautiful. That's the new note. Can you sing so, mi, so,
So, mi, so.
so, mi, do,
So, mi, do.
do, mi, so,
Do, mi, so.
so, mi, re,
So, mi, re.
do.
Mi, re,
And now we've got our
do.
new element in there, and then for the rest of their K-8 general music education, the rest of their lives, you're in the practice phase. You keep reinforcing it, you keep bringing it back, you keep putting it in new songs, you keep showing it over and over again, day after day after day. So you spend a month or 2 preparing. You might spend 3, 4, 5 years preparing. You shouldn't just be singing mi, re, do songs in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade. You can expand outside of that. Each song has a different purpose. You're building up the repertoire of sounds. And then, in one specific moment of one specific day, in maybe 5 minutes to 10 minutes, you are presenting. You are showing them, here's that thing you've been hearing for a whole long time. You've shown me it, and you've written it on the, you've shown it with manipulatives. Maybe you moved around some stuff on the floor, you moved around some stuff on the board to show where the high notes were. And maybe you wrote it down in a worksheet. What's the name of the word that has the high notes? Tol lamb. Not little lamb, because li is on me. Tol lamb. Good job. Tol lamb. They've shown me they're ready for it. Now here's the name. So, done. You're done, present. Now, practice for the rest of your life. That's the core of coda. Prepare, present, practice. So I encourage you to use that with each of these elements as you're building up their oral skills, as you're building up their repertoire of sounds. Now, we've gone through our listening vocabulary, our speaking vocabulary. I want to do a little bit of stuff with our thinking vocabulary. So what I'd like to do is we're going to use do, re, mi, and so, and we're going to change the pattern every time. So let's sing a couple of patterns first to get them in our ears. Do, mi, so.
Do, mi, so.
So, mi, do.
So, mi, do.
Do, mi, re.
Do, mi, re.
Mi, re, do.
Mi, re, do.
Beautiful. Pick any of those patterns or any other pattern you want. 3 notes of those 4. Do, re, mi, so. Those are all of our notes. Sing those 4 notes for me. Do, re, mi, so. Those are only 4 notes. Those 4 notes, sing 3 of them, right in tempo, no change in rhythm. Very, very simple ask. 3 notes, different than what I sing. Once somebody sings a pattern, I want the whole group to sing the pattern. And then the next person down the line sings a new pattern. And we echo back. And we keep going no matter what happens. If something goes wrong, that's okay. Just keep going. Try to sing what you think they meant to sing. If they mess it up, that's okay. I'll start, and then we'll go to Candy, and then we'll go all around here, and then we'll snake around the back. I sing, group sings, she sings, group sings, she sings, group sings, etc. Do, re, mi.
Do, re, mi.
Mi, re, do. Sorry.
Mi, re, do.
Do, mi, mi.
Do, mi, mi.
Do, mi, re.
Do, mi, re.
Re, mi, do.
Re, mi, do.
Do, do, mi.
Do,
Do, do, mi.
They can all be the same note.
Do, re, mi.
Do, re, mi.
Mi, so, so.
Do so. Mi, so, so.
Do, do, mi.
Do, do, mi.
So, mi, so.
So, mi, so.
Mi, re, do.
Mi, re, do.
So, mi, so.
Ooh, so, mi, so. Over here.
Do, re, do.
Do, re, do.
Do, mi.
Do, mi, mi.
So, mi, do.
So, mi, do.
Beautiful, good job. Doesn't take a long time. You individually know what every single student is doing and where their brain is in that moment. You're hearing where, and there's a lot of different levels in the room, but that's okay. It's okay. You make a mistake, we try to correct. There was one that was, the pitch changed, but the words didn't. The class just decided we're gonna stick with the words that she said, as if that was her intention. That's great, that's great. You're helping the kids, you don't need to stop, you don't need to correct. You can do some of that individually. You might find from doing something like that, oh, okay, some of these kids need a little extra help, bring them in during recess. You don't need to point it out. Now the problem is you do this once, and those kids feel exposed. They feel pointed out. I'm sure several of you in the room feel uncomfortable with what I just asked you to do. I understand. Every one of your students feels that way every day. Some of them don't. Some of them are hams. You don't know that. The ones that act like hams don't necessarily have the most confidence. Some people who project a lot of self-confidence into the world actually have a lot of internal baggage to deal with and a lot of low self-confidence and those types of things. It happens. So you don't know. You don't know what those kids are feeling inside. When you feel that yourself, that's a chance for you to get in touch with what your kids are feeling when you're asking them to do this. Because math is different. Kids get terrified of math, kids hate math, but math is concrete knowledge and skills. It is facts, it is things you can drill into your brain and put on a piece of paper. We're asking them to perform with a little teeny piece of meat in their throat that they can't see or control that is moving thousands of times per second. That's insane. We're asking them to do something absolutely insane. So we need to have the confidence to try and to make mistakes and to do these sorts of things on our own. I was very impressed that nobody made the decision to just sing the same note every time. So, what happens if they do that? That's a choice. That's a creative choice. It's totally valid. It's fine. Let them do it. But if they do it every time, say, hey, Billy, would you want to read a book that was just the same word in every chapter, every page was just the same word? Fish, 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 fish. Fish, 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 fish. Fish, 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 fish. You can express that in a way that makes it a little bit more expressive, right? I'm not just saying fish, 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 fish. John Cage had a piece called In C. It's only C naturals. Piano piece, only C natural. He only had one of them though. You didn't hear a second version of 433, the song that's just all silence. There's no sequel there. 522. No, you don't get to do that. We're done. The first artist that hung a urinal in a museum was revolutionary. The second one to do it was a plumber. You don't get away with it the second time. So if a kid goes, do, 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 great, wonderful, creative choice. Now something else. Me. Okay, different choice, that's fine. They're gonna run out of notes eventually to just repeat. You say, you can't do one you've done before. I know you've done do, do, do before. You need to try something else. Re. Okay, you got me. But there's only so many notes, I'm gonna get you eventually. We'll get there. And we had one who decided to go outside the boundaries, which I don't discourage. I just really strongly reinforce what the boundaries are. And the kids who want a little extra challenge will break the boundaries and you don't need to address them. Just let them. So we had one, so, me, so. I didn't ask for 8 notes. But that's okay. That's totally fine. They're being creative. Kids will self-differentiate and expand their knowledge and skills if you allow them to do so. Like I said, close your eyes if you don't want the help of seeing where your neighbor's hands are. Just tell them they're allowed to do that. The ones who want the challenge will do the challenge. Kids are craving knowledge and new skills, so they will go for that extra challenge if you give it to them. I had a student in the high school that I taught. I was doing, How Can I Keep From Singing? Really beautiful melody. My life goes on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I should have picked the key before I started singing. My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. And what we did was do it in solfege. So, do, re, mi, do, re, do, la. So, do, mi, re. Did it with hand signs. We started doing it in a 3-part round. I had a student who had just joined choir for the first time. She played trumpet for years. She had really good ears. She came in and she said, Mr. Keene, I want to show you something. And she said, so, do, re, mi, do, re, do, la. So, do, mi, so. I can't do it. She did a 3-part canon with herself, with 1 part singing, 1 part hand signs, other part hand signs. Whole song, 3-part canon.
Wow.
Amazing, blew my mind. When I did my Kodai training, my 2nd level solfege teacher had us do 3-part sight reading. We would read a 3-part score, 1 hand on piano, 1 hand sign, 1 part on voice. Really hard, really hard. I don't do it anymore. She said, Mr. Keene, could you do that? And I said, maybe with like 200 hours of practicing, maybe. Like, I'm not going to, that's insane. But you're doing it in the concert, that was awesome. I'm going to show that off as though I taught it to you. So when you give kids that opportunity, they'll go into it. When you give them that freedom. So we'll get some extra notes, we'll get some extra 8th notes, we'll get some changes in rhythm, that's okay. If it gets out of hand and it's starting to distract other kids, you obviously have to address it somehow. Like I was saying with repeated notes, you don't address it the first time, you don't address it the second time. But if 6 times in, a kid's just doing repeated notes, then you say, hey, would you want to read the fish book? Fish, 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 fish. Maybe you would read that book. You're probably not reading the sequel. Salmon, 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 salmon. No. Second one's boring. First one, okay, I'll give it to you. So, good. Thinking, we're rearranging. I appreciate that you guys did that. I can't do that in large sessions because it takes too much time. That was beautiful. If you do that every week, every month, do something like that, very, very simple. Reduce it. It could be just 2 notes. Do, mi, mi, do, mi, do. There's lots of variations you can do with just 2 notes. You can play that game with 2 notes if you just say don't do the one before you. You can do another one that was done, but just don't do the one before you. Because they don't know what's going to come up before them. They might have picked one, but you ever had that experience where you're supposed to read and you find the paragraph, you're like, okay, I'm paragraph 8, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, and you just sit there and like, okay. And it comes up to your turn, you've ignored everything else everyone else has read for the entirety of the class, and you get there, and then teacher says, could you read the 9th paragraph, please? So they can't prepare. They don't know what pattern. They're going to go me, okay, me is going to be my pattern. Okay, I got it. And then Susie next to them goes me, and goes, Susie. Do. It's okay. They'll self-police, they'll figure it out on their own. Thinking vocabulary. Reading vocabulary comes next. You can only read things you can think, so when you leave out the thinking, when you leave out the improvisation, they have a hard time transitioning to notation. Reading is taking visual things and making them oral. When you read language, you are hearing sounds in your head from words that you are seeing on a page. When you sing from my hand signs, you're doing the same thing. That is still reading. So this is my do. Everybody sing with me. Do, re, mi, re, do, so, do. Very good. Now read without me singing. Do,
re, mi, so.
Beautiful. Now audiate, hear it in your head, and then sing it to me after I do it. So watch me first, then sing. Sing. Do,
re, mi, do.
Beautiful. That's a little bit harder sometimes. If I do it with you, it's easier. If they see it first, they can play it in their head first. That's called audiation. It's creating sounds in your head, just like visualization is creating visuals in your head. You see that, and then you can reproduce. So this is how we train the reading. You get the physical stuff starting there. The hand signs help a lot. You can also do it with music notation. You don't need to go onto the board. You don't need a piece of sheet music. You got 5 lines and 4 spaces right here. Everybody show me your hand staff. I like thumb at the top. Doesn't matter, but I like thumb at the top. So I'm going to say this is do. Everybody read with me. Point to your hand staff. Do, re, mi, so, mi, re, do. And Ray is just kind of the weird cousin that nobody likes. He's the weird guy, so he just hangs out in the space. He's just a weird guy. Everybody else hangs out on the lines, but this guy just hangs out in the spaces. So Ray goes there, everybody else goes on those lines. Do, mi, so, sing with me.
Do, mi,
So, mi, re.
so, mi,
Beautiful.
re.
Read from my hands and show me on your hands. Do. Sing with me.
Do, re, mi, so.
Your sight reading. That didn't take long. Your sight reading. You don't need pages. You don't need PowerPoints. You don't need whiteboards. Your sight reading. And maybe you never get past that stage. Maybe you never get to the actual notation, but the middle school might. The high school might. This is all you need. And when you say, I have to hand out these worksheets and teach them the staff and teach them the key signatures and teach them the time signatures, it's too much. And a lot of you think, I can't do that, I don't have time for it. So you abandon it. But you can get it into the day in little 2-minute chunks. You don't need to articulate that this is a staff. You can just say, everyone sing with me. Hands up, sing with me. Do, mi, do, mi, do, mi, so. Good, I'm done. 10 seconds. One class, boom. 2 months down the road, I start going, this is my favorite thing to show people. This is what I do every parent-teacher night, because I can do it in 5 minutes and make parents sight read, which is super cool. I stole it from a guy named John Armstrong. If you ever get a chance to meet him, he's awesome. His trainings are 100% worthwhile. He's mostly Midwest and Northeast. He doesn't get out here, I think, very often, but he's amazing. I saw him perform live with a 5th grade choir that sight read better than my college choir. Amazing, blew my mind. Great guy, John Armstrong, music literacy. So, read with me, please. Do,
Re, mi, so, mi, re, mi, do, so.
interesting how there's that little half-second gap because you were ready for me, do, mi, do, mi, do. So, there it is. Cool. Good job. Good job. Excellent. Do.
Re, mi, so, mi, re, mi, do.
Harder? Any harder with the circles around it? No, I don't think so, right? Not any harder. Do, do.
Do, re, mi, so, mi, re, mi, so, mi, do.
Gotta practice the repeated notes too, because our brains want to tune those out, so pay attention to the repeated notes. Harder with the lines? Maybe a hair, maybe a little bit harder to read. Not much, maybe 2%, right?
Do, re, mi, so, mi, do, mi, re, do.
Beautiful. Harder, a little bit. Not that much, right? Now that we've practiced it so much, I would never start with this many notes. You understand. This is an example for you. I would never do this with 4 notes first. It would be 2 notes first. Maybe even just 1 note first, just to get the rhythm together and get this transition. But this helps a lot. I usually do it actually once I get to the full pentatonic because I like to do the full transition here. But when I'm working with kids, you start with the simplest pattern you can. You can do a single line staff, note on the staff, note above, note below. Do, re, mi, re, do. That's all you need. Get rid of all that extra crap. When I started doing this, any of you who are band people or instrumental people might have gotten triggered because this probably wasn't an E, right? I can imagine do. I think it's a B flat, right? Yeah, so you're like, that's not right. Sorry, honey, no clef, no key signature. You don't know. This could be C clef, this could be alto clef, you don't know, but you assume it's treble, right? Because your brains work that way. It's not. Kids don't assume that. You're fine. Oh, can I do that if I'm not singing the pitches that are on the staff? They don't know. Don't worry about it. Beautiful singing matters more. Good. Now, do.
Re, mi, so, mi, re, do.
Beautiful. Little harder. Not that much though. Once you make the sequence, really hard to go from singing with me to. That's hard. It's way harder for choir kids than it is for band kids. Band kids get a single line where they play every note that's on that line. Choir kids get 3, 4, 5, 6 staffs with a whole bunch of piano notes that they have to ignore and a whole bunch of words for the other part, this part 2 that they have to ignore. Way too much for them to process. If you can, very, very, very helpful to take your choir scores and turn them into band scores. Take your choir score and write out the single line part for your part 1 so they don't have to see all that extra stuff. Get them to the full score eventually. It's super helpful. But that single line is much easier to read. They don't need the clef. They don't need the key signature. They don't need the time signature. At the beginning, they need words. They need notes. They need rhythm. They don't need all that other stuff because they're singing in tune anyway. Once they have the key, it doesn't matter. You can move the key up and you can say, okay, well, yeah, this is written in E flat, but I'm going to sing it in F major because it sounds better in that key for them. You don't need to tell them that you're doing that. They don't know enough to know that. If you got the one snarky little perfect pitch kid, pull them over. Oh, we're going to do this in a different way. I know this is going to be hard, but it's going to be a big challenge. You think that you're strong enough and smart enough to handle that challenge? Yeah, we can do it. Okay, cool. Great job, kid. Now, ready?
Mi, re, do, re, mi, re.
What's next?
Mi, so.
Interesting. What's missing there?
A rest.
Yeah, don't need to put it on there. You know the tune, you know the melody, you figured it out on your own. There's a little bit of space right there. It's enough for your brain to go, okay, that note I'm probably supposed to wait for because I've heard that melody 1,000 times. I do this in 3-4 minutes at a parent-teacher conference. The parents see it, they love it. They love seeing that their kids are actually learning something. And then you have the kids do this up on stage, it blows their mind. Have them sing and print the sheet music in the program. They see, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow, they can do that. I can't do that. I've had my high school kids before sight read it 4 parts on stage in the concert, print it into the program. It's amazing. The parents are sitting there like, wow. And I had one of the best experiences of my life when one of my students came back up to me after the concert and said, Mr. Keene, I got grounded after the choir concert last night. I said, why? He said, well, we did the sight reading on stage, right? I said, yeah. We did really good, right? He said, yeah, you did awesome. I was so proud. It was the first time I'd ever tried that. It went really, really well. I was very surprised. And he said, well, I was in the car afterwards, and Mom said, oh, it was so funny how Mr. Keene pretended that you didn't know that one song, but then you totally knew it, and it sounded great. That was a really cute little bit that he did. He was like, what do you mean? You know the one that he was acting like you'd never seen the song before, and he put it in the program, but it was actually one that you knew. And Mom, we'd never seen that before. That's sight reading. We got that right on stage. I said, well, I'm sure he let you see the programs. Nope, he did not. We got that on stage. We worked really hard to learn how to do it. She's like, aha, very funny. It's okay, you can stop pretending. Mom, we sight read that. Right? If my kid is so proud of his sight reading skill that he's going to swear at his mom and get grounded out of pride, that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's really wonderful. I apologize, guys. We went really deep on some of this material, and I ended up not having time for everything I wanted to. I will hang out here for quite a while after here if you want to have some Q&A time. I'm more than happy to take any phone calls, any emails, anything like that with specific stuff about the classroom too. And like I said, brochure's right there. I can come into your classroom for free anytime. So please take me up on that offer. Saturday, October 6th in the afternoon, the Phoenix Boys Choir is having a free PB day from 1 to 3 p.m. With our Grammy Award-winning artistic staff working on boys' voice change and all the sort of vocal technique stuff. I'll be getting some new content from this as well on music literacy. So you're invited to that, totally free. There's some handouts over there for that. I also have a template letter there for your most talented boys if you'd like to invite them to audition for the boys' choir. We would love for you to do that too. The Arizona Kodai Society has a workshop on the same day, that Saturday, October 6th. We'd love for you to attend that too. It'd be just as valuable. You have a lot of material from the same kind of concept that ties in there together. We've got a lot of other materials there too, including those perusal packets with free music. I apologize we didn't sing any of that today. This was going really well, and I just really got on some rants, and it was really fun. You guys are a great crowd, and I would love to come back here again with you, because this was super, super fun. I really enjoyed this. I hope you grab some of that stuff on the way out. There's some brochures and stuff for your boys if you think that they would like the boys' choir. Also some posters over here if you would want to hang in your classroom. If you'd like one of those, then you are more than welcome to grab one of those on the way out too. I would highly appreciate it if you make sure that that your name is signed in there fully. I will check in with the district and see if I can get a list of emails from you all, so I can send you digital copies of all this stuff too, along with the videos. You can go back and review all of that. Any exercise, any other, even the stories, the jokes, the rants, all of those are on my YouTube channel. All of them are on my SoundCloud. I've got recordings of pretty much everything. I've got about 12 other PD topics that I've done over the years that all have videos and handouts online. So if you want more of this material, it's out there. I encourage you to use it, and I'll happily send it to you if I get your emails from there. There was material in here that we didn't get to today in the back that I just want to touch on real quick. If you go to that 3rd page and 4th page, I do have examples of this online, so you can find this full as a clinic. online, but this is my sequence for working with kids who are at that absolute bottom end of the spectrum who can't match pitch very well at all and really struggle to get any kind of sound. If you start out just getting them to identify high and low, is it a high sound or a low sound? Pretty much every person in the world can do that. I've never found someone who can't. If you find one of those people, please send them to me, because I have said every time I've done one of these PDs on this topic, I have said I will pay you $100 if you can find a person who literally can't sing that I can't teach to sing. I have not yet gotten a person, and every time I raise it by $100, so I will give you $1,600 if you can find a person who can't sing that I can't teach to sing. Happily, happily. They have to commit to doing lessons with me for a while. I can't just do it in one day, but I have never met a person who had a year of voice training from a competent teacher who still could not sing in tune. What I would say is, there are people who won't learn how to sing. There are people who won't do the time and the effort and the training that they need to get over that hump. There are no people that I have met, that I have seen in the world, that can't learn to sing. I have met people who need 1 or 2 years of training who are refusing to get it. That will happen. You will have kids who don't care and won't work hard and won't be able to sing. Forgive yourself when you have those kids. You can't reach them. That's okay. Give it a couple years, maybe they'll turn around, maybe you'll get the right song, maybe you'll get the right experience, maybe they'll turn, maybe not. You'll have kids that don't get it, but you can reach most of the kids, and you don't know which ones they are. So give it your all, try your best, and if you run into kids that are a real particular problem, these 2 pages will be your lifesaver. Go through each of those little steps and build up sequentially from their notes to help them learn how to hear their own voice and use their voice more effectively. Like I said, there's a video of it online with me from one of my prior sessions doing a full mock example with a teacher pretending to be an out-of-tune singer and going through the whole sequence. It took me 2 years to fix my hardest case. My hardest case is a girl named Becky. She was so sweet. I loved her. Took 2 years of lessons with me, took 2 years of choir with me. Loudest kid in my choir, 12 kids in that choir. Loudest kid, off tune the entire time. Every single, she knew it. She was fine. She was like, I'm trying really hard and I'm gonna learn how to sing better. That was just her attitude. She was a freshman. She was a super sweet kid. Loved her. After 6 months of lessons, I learned from her. We're trying to make an in-tune sound. You feel that sort of warm, vibrating, kind of open space when we sing in tune together. When you don't, you get that that kind of wobble. So we sang together and I said, okay, we're going for this. She goes, oh, you mean like that kind of like buzzy feeling? I was like, yeah. She goes, that means you're singing flat, right? She thought the feeling of singing in tune was the feeling that meant she was singing wrong. That's a huge problem. And I found that out 6 months into choir rehearsals with her. I wish I'd found that out on day 1, but I don't know that. So you need to dig deep with those kids if they want to learn. If they're the ones who are just totally checked out, then you gotta motivate them first, or you just have to forgive yourself and let that go. But if it's a kid who really wants to learn and you don't know how to reach them, try everything you've got, go through this full sequence, see if you can figure out what it is they're not hearing, what it is they're not experiencing, or call an expert to come in and do it for free, because I'm very happy to come in and help you. Thank you so much for your attention and your time, and your extra time for staying late. I really appreciate it. You guys were a great audience. Thank you so much for participating so much. I love you. Thank you.